Hello, and welcome to the Family Storytime Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Curry, and with me today are Amanda Hayes and Aubrey Adrianson. Today I will retell the story of the Greek creation of man, and Amanda and Aubrey will react to this story in ways that we've all either seen children react to this story or in ways we believe children will react to this story. The purpose of the show is to point out some problems in these kinds of stories and how they are not useful in teaching children morals or important life lessons like while having a little immature fun at the same time. Today's story will be retold in part from a Greek mythology website. Again, these Greek mythology websites have funky URLs, so you can find a link to this story on the Godless Family website. And with that, we give you The Creation of Man by Prometheus. So a long time ago, at the beginning of time, there was this great war between these people called the Titans and the gods of Olympus. And because these two Titans, Prometheus and Epimetheus, were spared, they were spared imprisonment in this place called Tartarus, where all of these other Titans were placed because they fought against the Olympians. But Prometheus and Epimetheus were spared imprisonment because they didn't actually fight against the Olympians, and they were given the task of creating man. So Prometheus, shaped out of mud, he shaped out these little men, these little clay figures, and Athena breathed life into these clay figures and created man that way. And Prometheus, he told Epimetheus, like, he gave him the task of giving the creatures of the earth their, various qualities, like, being swift and cunning and having strength and fur and wings and claws and talons and rawr. He basically told Epimetheus to make all of the animals, but unfortunately, by the time he got to making man, Epimetheus, he was like, I already gave all the good qualities to all of these animals. Like, there's nothing left for man. We can't make them fly. They can't have talons. They can't swim and breathe underwater. That's all for fish and birds and stuff. So Prometheus decided to make man stand upright as the gods did. And he also gave them the gift of fire, and that's in another story that we can talk about. But, Prometheus, he loved men and man and women so much more than these Olympians, these gods who his people were fighting with. And so, the Olympians, he banished most of his family, these Titans, into this horrible dungeon called Tartarus. And when Zeus decreed that man, must present a portion of each animal they sacrifice to the gods and give them like fruit and money and stuff, Prometheus wasn't cool with that. He was like, I'm gonna trick Zeus. I'm going to trick him because that's not cool, because I like humans. And so he created two piles, one with a bunch of bones wrapped in juicy fruit, not like the candy and stuff, but like, juicy fruit and fat and stuff. And the other, he had good meat hidden under, like a bunch of hide and furs and stuff. And he told Zeus, he was like, Zeus, pick which one you want, man. These are the offerings for you. And Zeus was kind of stupid. He picked the one that had all of the bones with, because, they looked like fruit and, good juicy fat and stuff. And since, Zeus had given his word that he had to accept that, this is the share that he gets for future sacrifices, he was like, this isn't fair. I don't want bones and fat and, weird skins of fruit and stuff. And so he took fire away from man. But Prometheus, he lit a torch and gave fire back to man. And Zeus was super mad at him. And he, punished Prometheus for helping out humans. And he put him on a rock and had birds peck at him and stuff. But, that was basically how man was created.
Wow.
There's a lot more that goes into the story, but all of the stories really weave together.
Right. So there's like you could give people rar too. That's pretty cool. Can I have a rar?
I know,
That was
he
awesome.
gave all of the rar to the animals. I mean, if you try to
I
rar,
know. I feel
yeah,
ripped off. Yeah.
I have a question.
sure.
So, like with the other creation story, people were made from mud. So, this story is another ripoff.
Well, actually, this story predates the Bible, so the Bible is technically a ripoff, and there are other creation stories also that came before this one.
So when did people start learning about science and evolution?
The field of science developed slowly over time as humans began to learn about the world around them, and we began to learn from each other. The theory of evolution was proposed in 1859, but that's considered fact today.
So the people who wrote and told these stories, were they stupid or just joking around?
Uh, Well, because they didn't have very good understanding of the world, I mean, they made up stories that made sense to them at the time. I mean, it may seem silly now, but back then it was normal to say that God did it.
So, Prometheus gave mankind fire. Why? Was mankind too stupid to figure it out for themselves?
Well, you got to remember these stories. They tell where things came from, supposedly from their understanding. The people or the persons who made up this story knew all about fire, but back then fire was very special and necessary for survival. So it made sense to the people of that time to think of it as a gift from the gods.
So Zeus asked Prometheus to make people, but then he didn't want them to have fire, which is necessary for survival.
Mhm.
So it kind of sounds to me like Zeus is a big jerk.
Well, in other stories, Zeus makes a lot of bad and mean decisions. He isn't considered a nice god, and the Greek gods, they were really more considered like people with really awesome powers.
A lot of these gods seem really immature to me.
Me too.
Yeah, pretty much. So, what did we learn from this story?
Zeus is mean.
Prometheus is nice.
Fire is really important. Fire.
And ancient people didn't know a lot about science.